Resilience and optimism in a leader are so important because who wants to follow you if it doesn't make any difference? Because people need to believe they can make the future better. They need to feel the potential to create a better tomorrow. And if you take that away from them, then it's very hard to get anything done, especially in a difficult time. I see optimism as more a state of mind and a habit of the heart, if you will, than an assessment of risk or reward or failure in a given situation. To be optimistic means you are empowering yourself to take a shot at making it better. To be pessimistic means you're giving yourself an out. I mean, if it can't get better, why should you make the effort? Success is not guaranteed, but it's foreclosed if you're pessimistic. I think optimism is almost an obligation among people who have gifts and potential to make things better. And that's why I adhere to it. So it is energizing and empowering. And that increases the chances that you'll succeed in your mission, whatever it is, overwhelmingly. And that if you don't, the people who take the journey will still be proud they did. I have encountered a lot of setbacks. I lost 2 elections after I entered politics. I've had ferocious opposition where the whole strategy was to try to destroy me as a person in the eyes of everybody else. My mother died after I became president. Next morning, the leaders of the Republican House and Senate were calling for an investigation into Whitewater and a special counsel, and they knew good and well there was nothing there. I've had a lot of, things that really hurt, but the good has so far outweighed the bad. You still have choices even when adversity strikes. I remember I had a friend many years ago in the 80s that I was reacquainted with almost by accident after I became president because he was part of a group touring the White House at a convention of public speakers. And he was a pilot, a motorcycle rider, a skier, blonde-headed, blue-eyed, ultimate Colorado guy. And he was crippled when he ran a motorcycle up under a truck and crushed his legs. But he kept flying, and while he was flying, the plane crashed and caught on fire, and before he could get out, because his legs were incapacitated, he was burned badly in his hands and from basically his scalp all the way down. And he had to have lots of surgery just to put himself back together again. So I ran into him at the White House at this speakers conference, and we started talking, and I said, short answer, how'd you handle this? He said, well, I was pretty lower lipped about it at the time, but he said, I looked in the mirror one day and I said, now, you can't do anything about what's happened to you. It probably took away 100,000 options you could have exercised about what to do on any given day. Over a lifetime, let's say 100,000. He said, it probably left me with 900,000 more that were still there, plus a few new ones because I had been disabled and all of that. So I just decided to think about the 900,000 instead of the 100,000. I mean, after all, I'd already lost quite a lot of days to all these injuries, and feeling sorry for myself and pessimistic and down would only have given more days to the darkest thing that ever happened to me, and I decided to try to give them to the light. Now, do you have to be naively optimistic? No. Do you have to gild the lily and pretend there aren't risks there that are? No, you shouldn't. You need to be optimistic in a tough-minded way. You still have to make careful, disciplined decisions. But if you start with faith that you can prevail, you up your odds. The key thing is that you should be optimistic all the time about the value and potential of your enterprise. But if you are optimistic about the need for your enterprise and its long-term prospects, it still doesn't mean that every idea that you have is good enough to prevail at an acceptable price within an acceptable time frame. You live with optimism as a North Star. You use it as an assessment of whether you're going to win an election or meet your earnings targets or have a certain percentage of your kids graduate from college on time or, you name it. That's a whole different kind of optimism. You don't want to be so optimistic that you don't do the work necessary to achieve the objective. Like I always tell people in every election, you should always run as if you're behind, no matter how far ahead you are. And if anybody ever uses this phrase, you are going to win anyway, if you ever hear that phrase by anybody, they're either trying to stick it to you and hoping you won't notice, or they are so out of touch, you should just get up and thank them very much and get out of that room as quick as you can. Well, the people who work with you can be inspired a lot by your encouragement, your advice, and your example. And it's very important if you want to inspire them with your optimism and helping them to overcome their own problems, either within the organization or effort or within other aspects of their lives, is that people in the group know it's not a one-off. They need to know that you really care and that you get it. After the Haitian earthquake in 2010, I had already been working there about a year for the United Nations, and I waited about, 10 days so as not to get in the way of the emergency workers before I took a big delegation down there and a plane load of supplies. And then we were driving back to the airport. And in the traditional highway, everything was destroyed then, but the traditional highway, there is a long artist section with a wrought iron fence where for several blocks, artists would hang their paintings. So there we are 10 days after the earthquake, and I couldn't believe it. There were already about 8 of them up, back in business, showing their paintings. So I said, wait, guys, stop the car. I said, everybody get out, everybody buy something, and don't do what they normally expect you to do. No haggling this time. Just whatever they ask for, pay for it, and I'll be glad to cover the difference if you need it. But we need to show respect for what these people are doing. So I crossed the street and bought a couple of paintings. And Hillary and I love Haitian art anyway, and so we've got several pieces in our homes. But I was fixing to get back in the car. And then the person who was at the back end here of the list of the 8 started screaming, saying, President Clinton, don't go. You came here in 2003 and bought something from me. You have to do it today. So I walked back about a half a block and shook hands with the man. And sure enough, he had a picture up of us together in 2003. And I said, it's good to see you again. I said, I just can't believe that you all have come back here so quickly. He said, well, actually, I had to, and I had nothing else to do because my wife and children were killed in the quake. And he said, and I'm in bad shape, but I know we are a family here, we artists. And we represent something about our country to all these people that come up and down this highway and come in from the airports. And they already all know what happened to me, every one of them. And they know if I can be back here, then they should be too. Whenever I get discouraged, I think about that guy. And I think, I have to do my own version of hanging out my paintings. We all do. Maybe the next president of the United States is watching this. If so, I'm honored. And I hope it's been helpful. But if you're there, whether you consider yourself a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or liberal or conservative, I hope you will pursue whatever your goals are in a way that will bring us together and lift us up and unlock all this potential that has been kept locked down by our relentless commitment to division and argument. And yes, there'll be setbacks. And yes, some of them may be personal, some of them may be agonizingly painful. But all of that is vastly preferable to hanging back because you're afraid you can't do it, or you're afraid you can't stand the pain if you fail. I have now been out of high school. I can't believe this. For 57 years. So I'll soon have my 60th anniversary. And I made every 5 years save one when I had to send the troops into Kosovo. And I can tell you, I've watched my friends triumph and have tragedies. I've lost 4 of my classmates in Vietnam, including one of my closest friends. I've seen this, all of us age at different levels, and then the whole thing has been fascinating to me. But the one thing I know is that the most disappointed ones are not those who failed. The most disappointed ones are those who did not try what they had always wished to try. So the first thing is, if you want to be a leader, you have to lead yourself. You know, that old deal about leading a horse to water you can't make him drink. You got to be the drinking horse here. First, be the drinking horse. Decide what is it you want to do, and then get after it. So that's what I hope will happen. I hope everybody who watches this will say, whew, what am I going to do to be a better leader? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do?